Greetings, podsters and podlars, and welcome to Cazza and Tracy talk Gavin and Stacey. I'm Tracey.
And I'm Cazza.
And we're friends who, like Gavin and Stacey, met online in the noughties. We connected over small humour, over how life is funny in the minutiae of things, and we also found that we like to read and watch many of the same things, and one of those things was Gavin and Stacey, which is a show that also celebrates small humour, as well as kindness and bluster, and people being magnificently themselves in all their flawed glory. And now that the show is having its one last hurrah, with a final Christmas special, we thought we'd rewatch it all, remind ourselves why we loved it, and find out whether we still do. So it's Season 1, Episode 5, and let's begin with Tracey's Pracey. It's the night of the bucks and the stags. This brings all of the joys and all of the horrors that you might expect from such evenings. There's matching T-shirts, shots to get started, a stripper, and lots of arms around each other's shoulders. There's a real contrast between the two parties when, at the end of the night, the guys are having their post-clubbing greasy dinner and it ends in an argument led by Smithy. Meanwhile, in Wales, the girls are just sobbing with the truth of how much Stacey is in love with Gavin. The morning after the night before, Stacey and Nessa are recovering on the couch when Bryn comes over, and it becomes clear he thinks he'll be invited to the stags, not knowing that it's already been. Stacey convinces Gavin, and Gavin convinces Smithy to have another smaller stag party in Wales without letting Bryn know they've already had one. Before they go to the pub, Stacey's brother Jason arrives from Spain. We're introduced to the fishing trip that Bryn and Jason took, and the tension between Bryn and Jason, which is known only to them, and they're not telling. This is also the moment when Stacey asks Bryn to walk her down the aisle, which is beautiful for Bryn, awkward for Jason. Bryn takes Gavin to the pub for his stag's do. Smithy arrives and the three of them get into the spirit of the evening until Ahmed, one of Stacey's ex-fiancés, comes into the pub. Bryn introduces him to the unsuspecting Gavin and Stacey's secret is out. The episode ends as Gavin confronts Stacey with the truth of her 6 engagements. So that's kind of what happens, but what was this episode about for you, Caroline?
Yeah, I think you've nailed it there in the Pracey. There's the revolting, I don't know, the trope, I guess, of bucks and hens and what you'd expect, that the girls have all dressed as sexy schoolgirls with fake freckles on their noses and little pigtails, and then the boys are just completely sleazy, yelling at girls in nightclubs, chatting them up, getting really drunk, ending up in a greasy spoon, getting slightly testosterone-y with each other. And I think if they've been thinking about what they would like to discuss in terms of a love relationship and what they, I don't know, as authors want to look at, like last week it was how revolting those wedding fairs are, then this week it was let's have a dig down into bucks and hens. And that, I think they did a really good job. But also there's that dramatic reveal of Stacey's past engagements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a short series. This makes you realise they kind of just have to make things happen, don't they? And I was thinking they've done such a great job of hitting all the beats of the wedding prep. The couple have met, they got engaged, there's the wedding fair, the bucks and the hens, and now the cliffhanger of will they or won't they make it down the aisle. It's so
only
well crafted.
Episode 5.
Yeah, and I agree. They've kind of just really gone all in on what's at the heart of those two kinds of evenings.
Yeah.
So do you think there was anything about it, now that we're looking at it in 2024, that's making you squirm when you look at it again, or making you think it kind of...
Oh, there were a couple of moments that I thought were really... there was a discussion in the line-up to the Knights Club where Smithy kind of yelled out to a couple of girls walking by, and then they had a discussion about his lack of standards, and it was just so gross. And him saying, no, I would go with anyone. I would let them do things to me. It's just like, oh, my God, I cannot bear it when men are like that.
Yeah.
Like they think they're so desirable. And the two girls that he was accused of having no standards about were just women, they
out for a night out. Yeah.
out for a night. And then there is the mention of one of their friends, little Dougie, who it turns out obviously has some kind of sexual assault history that's now being sent to trial. And it was,
Yeah,
it was like, should you joke about that sort of thing? I kind of feel like no.
Yeah. I felt like the conversation that Smithy had might still happen, but I really feel like that joke they wrote about the semen on the dress and the sexual assault, I wonder whether they wouldn't write that in 2020. I don't know, maybe they would, but I wouldn't. I just thought it was a bit off.
I was really off, and it made me so uncomfortable. And I guess you're right, we should be laughing at I feel like the joke wasn't kind of framed the right way. Yes, people like Smithy would be going, I feel that, I would accept that, but I think you were meant to laugh about it because he's fat and disgusting, so how dare he have standards? And I don't think that's the right way to frame that joke, if that makes sense.
Actually, that does. The whole thing just is a bit.
Yeah, if you're going to make a comment on it, I feel like the wrong comment was made. Like the comment was not, you shouldn't talk like that because you're like that. It's more.
Yeah, you just shouldn't.
That's just a really fucked up way to talk about things.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree. So if we talk about the character, any developments in the character arcs?
Well, Pam and Mick's sexiness, that was very is that the first time it's come out this season?
I don't
just there,
so.
like it starts with the scene of them reminiscing about the corking shag that they'd had last night. And I thought that's really great to have, middle-aged characters still
I love their
still being into each other, yeah. And then Pam and Mick's obvious relationship with Gav's friends that, it looks like Gav's house is the house where everyone drops round and feels comfortable, and they know that Pam will give them a great feed and they'll have a laugh, and Mick will probably have a well-stocked beer fridge. It reminds me of the way that Steve used to talk about his parents. I think everyone loved going around to his parents because, there was food, there was drink, it was a nice welcoming atmosphere. And I thought, how nice to have this sort of environment. I don't know. I really liked that. What about you?
Yeah, well, mostly for me, it just reminded me how awful Smithy is because they get to the end of Gavin Stagg's night and it's all about Smithy. And they get to the end of Stacey's night and it's all about Stacey. And his job is to make it all about Gavin.
Yes, good point, yes.
I also was reminded how awful Nessa can be. So when Stacey asks Bryn to walk her down the aisle, it's in the context of Jason sort of assuming, because he's her brother, that she'll ask him. And Stacey beautifully asks Bryn just because he's been her uncle and sort of been that father figure. And Nessa just bluntly says, "Oh, kick in the teeth for you, isn't it, Jason?" And we're all thinking it and we would all sort of say it, but there's no compassion from her at all. And I just...
Yeah, and spotlights him at a moment where he might have been processing his own hurt.
Yeah.
Just, let's bring the focus back on you just when you have maybe had a bit of a letdown. Mean. What does mean?
I thought it was mean. And that is one thing on this rewatch that I am getting out actually is I hadn't realised how she can be a bit mean. But in contrast to that, what made your heart melt in this episode?
Well, it was Stacey asking Bryn to walk her down the aisle. It was really lovely.
It was. I agree.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
And I guess the other thing is it's not a happy heart moment, but Gav's genuine distress at Stacey keeping the fact from him that, he doesn't play that for laughs or, he's so hurt by it and that she hasn't told him that. And she's so distressed because I think she didn't want to hurt him by telling him that he's her sixth fiance, but, just the pain there. And they never pull out of that. Like they'll do the jokes, they'll do the laugh, but when there's an intense moment like that, they play it really straight, and it's quite affecting. And you're so worried for poor Gav at the end, and Stacey, you can see she's got herself in a muddle. So I think that was probably my real heart moment.
Well, he says, "You know everything about me." It's so vulnerable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good boy, Gav.
Yeah, he's lovely. Oh, what about your favourite joke or scene? Favourite joke, favourite scene?
Oh, favourite joke, right. Well, I did love that classic speech of Nessa's when they're all so drunk, when she goes, "Oh, Stace, don't get me wrong, but to be honest, at the end of the day, when all's said and done, do you know what I mean?" Yeah. And they all nod and they go,
yes, yeah.
I totally know what you mean. And also I did laugh when Stacey in tears, so drunk, and she just says, "I know what love is. It's Gav." And it's just, that made me laugh as well. They were mine.
That whole conversation's pretty funny. And I really liked the morning after with when Nessa and Stacey are on the couch. It was so well put together. They're under their quilts, the telly's on.
Yes.
I could feel their hangover. Like I haven't had a hangover.
They were both
years.
Slightly green. It was really good. Yeah.
All right.
There was also a cute little reveal in it that they've been mentioning a character called Chinese Alan for so long, and the way that show's been set up with names like Big Fat Sue and Japanese Margaret and all that sort of thing, you really do think one of their friends is Chinese, and then it just turns out he's white and probably just really likes to order Chinese food. And I thought that was a very cute joke and worth building up 5 episodes too. It was a good little reveal.
That has made me feel a little bit like I'm not very good at watching, because I just assumed that's why he was called Chinese Alan, because he liked Chinese food. I didn't even.
Well, maybe I'm just more racist than you.
Oh, that's hilarious. But
like we first watched this 20-something years ago, a bit under 20 years ago. So maybe you had that moment.
Oh, maybe, yes.
Back then, and then you remember. But it's still worth the reveal.
Yeah. It is a good name. All right, well, then we're at that part of the show where we ask each other a question. Have you got a question for me? I think you're going to know the answer to mine, but you can ask me first. Okay.
So Gav and Smithy pretend to be members of boy bands when they're trying to chat up. Well, they're not. I don't think Gav is really chatting up a woman, but they do a quite impressive shtick on the names. Can you remember what Gav his boy band name, and which the name of his band?
Oh, I can't, because I thought that whole bit was a bit silly. So I was like, what you were like in the last episode. I wasn't really paying attention to that bit.
Yeah. Oh, he was Preston from the Ordinary Boys.
Oh, Ordinary Boys. I did think that was.
I think I looked it up, and I don't think they're a band. Smithy was the fat one from G4.
I did think the Ordinary Boys was a good band name. I don't think record producers would let you. I don't think they'd let you do that self-deprecating irony, would they?
No, probably not.
No. All right, well, my question is, what is the song that Pam and Mick are singing to each other at the beginning?
Oh, okay, I paid attention to this one. I think it's, it's the song from Chess. Fine, isn't it madness? He can't be mine. What is that song called? I Know Him So Well.
Correct.
Is that right? Yeah.
Well, is it I Know Him So Well or I Love Him So Well? I don't know.
I think it's I Know Him So Well.
Right, and then they just changed the line. Well, we've got to the end of this episode, and we've ended with Gavin confronting Stacey, but we know correct. But we know that the next episode is the last one of the series. So it is a good way to end the episode. Leaves us wanting to know what comes next. Will there be a Gavin and Stacey wedding? Dun, dun, dun. All right, well, we'll be back with the final episode of Season 1 very soon. Talk to you then, Kazla.
Thanks, Tracey. See you then.